Now, April Bubb. Okay, so what had happened was we put King of Arabia on NetGalley. We've done for almost all of the Kings of the Castle, I think, and we did it for the Knights of the Castle. So the first one in the series was King of Arabia. So we put it up. And this lady, let me see if I can pull up that review. That review was downright. It was cutthroat, baby. But the reason why I have her on for two reasons is that she was right. She was right about some things. She wasn't right about others. And I'm going to pick that apart. Let me find that review. Oh, it's not on here anymore because let me find it in the group because I put it in group. I'm like, yeah. It was.
I'm surprised you don't have it as wallpaper on your like bathroom or something.
Okay, this for everyone who doesn't know, this is April Bubb. She's also an author, and that will come out in this because in this exchange, it encouraged her to get her book out there that she's been holding on to. So it was a wonderful thing that happened. Not every review that is negative is actually negative. That's why I'm saying if you give us the clues as to how to make this better, that was a very, very key to us going back. And I needed to get another beta reader. Let me see here. I'm looking at all of the April Bubb stuff, and this is okay. So I'm trying to find it. I should have had this pulled up. But basically, I would love to read it, and because you revised it, because when we went back and we edited, edited again.
Let me see. I'll see if I can find it on my.
Okay. But what is your author name? Because I went to find it under. I went to find it under April Bubb, and it wasn't under April Bubb.
April Lynn.
So why April Lynn? Is that your middle name?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's see here. I broke it down. Here it is. Let's see. Go ahead and find it on yours. Because there were two things I did. You were very right, and you saved us from making a very grave mistake. So I'm grateful to you for putting up that review, and I'm glad it was on NetGalley, because if we had published it in the form that it was in, we had been through the editors, we had been through the beta readers and everything, and getting this process out. I was not prepared, but it's shown a light on something that we needed to do, which was we needed another beta reader. We needed another set of eyes on King of Arabia. Were you able to find yours?
I'm pulling it up right now.
Okay.
Oh, I have the edited version. I don't have the original.
It all went away with the big, negative. There was one lady just hated it all the way across the board. But okay, so let me paraphrase that what you had said. Okay. Here,
it was choppy from like the flow of it.
So okay, here it is. In the beginning, the class reunion trip, you gave up reading at 60%. In the beginning, the class reunion trip of epic proportions is completely unrealistic. Like the whole class reunion trip, you can barely get people to show up for a dinner, let alone a really expensive trip. So here's the thing. That is subjective in the sense that in her hometown, there's about I don't even know if there's 5,000 people.
Yeah, our graduating class had 32 people in it. So when you're talking about a trip of like there's hundreds of people, it seemed like, on this trip, and they all like kept going. And it was just like, it blew my mind because I'm graduating with 32 people in my class. So I don't understand that concept because we couldn't get at a 5 or 10 year reunion 10 people to show up.
Well, from my class reunion, I come from Chicago, and we went to Chicago Vocational. I started off with 1,400 freshmen. We ended up with 753 seniors. There were 5,000 students in the school at any in the entire time. So for her, it's only 100 people in the reunion, and that's on the low numbers for us. And like I said, I graduated with 753 people. So you couldn't fathom that in your world, that there were more people that would show up to a reunion. So you gave it a mark off of that. But then you pointed out, what type of job did my character have at Vantage Point? And you said, what is Vantage Point? So I had to take a look at that and repair that. Then you also says, it's an interesting concept for a book, but it really needs a better flow. Some ideas should be expanded on. What happened with that was I ended up needing to get another editor. But there was a couple of typos in there that made it there was a few words that were the misuse of words, the transposition of words, same thing that we're advocating here. It was in King of Arabia, despite the many people that we went through. Okay, like the beginning. I would love to have started the book with her firsthand experience of being tired from the long flight and then making it to baggage claim and seeing this little boy go off on the belt and her just reacting and going after the child and then meeting the sheik. Okay, so now that's a personal preference. And I didn't want to change that because I needed the story to start where it did. So that's where a reader has to decide, okay, does she make a valid point here on this one? For me, I didn't care about the airport point. I cared about her getting that husband. So to me, the action started there. So I didn't change that one. But I did go back and explain that her class size in there to give a frame of reference for the reader, because you couldn't fathom that many people. So I needed to set the stage for somebody else who thought like you. Right. You know what I'm saying? Like, okay, well, she graduated with this many people and this, that, and the other. So that was a very, very key point. And then you said, then who are all these people who show up at the wedding? And that's kings of the castle and the queens. And so I said to myself, she missed an entire chapter that introduces Dro, Khalil, and the kings and their intentions regarding my main character. And you said, so lost and confused when there's no details about the wedding ceremony, just that it happened. And now they're having a very heated talk and heavy talk on their wedding night. So again, part of the series is word count. So there was only so much that we could get done in that short amount of time. But it was something about the size of my character. I had put feet instead of inches. And it made the difference. So it looked like the main character was yay tall and the girlfriend was a midget. So I had misrepresented a word, and you caught that. And I was like, we had to send it back through editing. I called up Bryn Weimer and I said, hey, we need you. Because we had sent it through all of our eyes. And what I did was I actually thanked you. I sent you an email and I thanked you for that. And then I wasn't expecting for you to reread the story after that. I mean, you said what you said. You saved us a lot of embarrassment, because this was the first one out of the gate. And if the first one out of the gate isn't good, it's an issue. So I was like, okay, we thanked you. I thanked you. And I noted what I would change and what was going to stay the same. And then I get this email and I put it back up. And then I get this email that you had changed the review and you said, and you wrote back to me and said, thank you. I read it again and wow, totally different. I mean,
you made a difference from the first book that I read to the second book that's out there. I mean, it was completely like pieces were put together and the puzzle, I didn't have to figure it out. It was already there. I just got to imagine it and the settings and the characters. And I didn't have to well, did she mean this? Are they talking about that? I'm not quite sure I followed this. So, but it was all put together.
Have you had somebody who had the opposite reaction? Like, I thanked you. And I said, thank you, because like I said, you saved us a world of embarrassment because it could have impacted the rest of the series. So have you had the opposite experience where, because I don't think you were all that kind to the kings either, but that's a different story. But did you have where an author came at you a different way because of your reviews?
I've had somebody push their publish date back because they needed to rework their book. Um, the book, I think it was something along the title of Text Me. And in that, you sort of figured the whole book is going to be about a texting conversation between people, whether it's relationship, something along those lines. But there was no text messages in the book. And it was so misleading. And I was dumbfounded by the time I got to the end of it. And I'm like, I don't understand what your synopsis of the book is and what, the title, but there's no texting in the book. I don't get it. What happened? Something you missed here. And they pushed the publish date like 6 months. So I guess I don't know if it was because of that, but
It probably
hopefully
was.
they've
It probably
reworked it.
was. So for you,
Yeah.
what makes for an author to write an outstanding book? What is your 5-star review criteria?
Um, I want the flow of the book I want it to flow from the beginning to the end. I want to get lost in it. I want to get lost in your words. I want to get lost in your setting, the scenery, whatever's happening. I want to be transported there. I want the characters to interact with each other. I don't want them to be, quiet, mousy little. I don't want that. I want them to be dynamic and something over the top, and there's action and some kind of drama, and but there has to be conversation as well, and good conversation, not just everyday kind of talk. I want this to be like explosive at some point, um, but really, I just want to get lost in it. I want your words to like transport me there.
Awesome. So give me your top 3.
Okay, so
You were
I
prepared.
I don't know if this is going to surprise you, but Lady of Jeffrey Manor.
Shut the front door and run out the back.
I know, right? I loved that book. There was something about it that her character she was fierce in my mind. And I want more of her in me, like every day. I want to throw deuces out the door and be like, yeah. She didn't, she just, she was herself. And I loved it because it didn't matter who she was around, what situation she was in, what kind of work environment, or who, like, the hierarchy was. I mean, she was fierce. And I was just like, I need some of that.
Wow.
I knew that
I'm
might
gonna say
surprise you.
I was not expecting that, but that is such a pleasant surprise. Lady of Jeffrey Manor. Oh my God,
Yes. Yep.
that's good to hear. That is good to
Yeah.
hear.
Yeah. I couldn't put it down when you sent it to me. I was like, I did read it twice. Um, I read it the first time through, and I was like, oh, here's my notes. Here you go. And then you had sent me it again and said, hey, it's updated. We've made a little here or there, and this has been changed. And I was like, okay. I read it again. I was like, this book, it's got it.
Awesome.
So
Awesome.
yes. So the kiss quotient, let's see, I'm going to mess up her name, but by Helen Huang. She's Asian, and it takes on Asperger's, and then there's the bride test after that one, and it takes on autism. And you don't see a lot of people tackling anything that has to do with a mental illness and doing it in such a classy fashion, where the characters aren't belittled, but they're brought up. And she rose them to a different standard. And I just enjoyed reading that because you don't see a lot of that.
Awesome. You just made what helped to make you go to the transition of being a reviewer and now an author?
Um, I read a book, I don't even remember the name, and it was so awful. I said, I can write better than this. And so the next day I got to the computer and I started writing, and I didn't stop. So the ideas just came and the characters just sort of started talking to me in my head. And um, my family thinks I'm crazy some of the time, but they just, I just listen to the voices in my head now.
So you're becoming a real author. That's what we all say, is listening to the voices in our heads. So what advice would you give to authors about content? Well, you do most of your reviews from NetGalley.
I do. But I also have, I do the Kindle Unlimited program. And so I get a very diverse um, book selection. Authors I've never heard of before. I do have my one click, I buy this, it doesn't matter what you write, I'll buy it, authors. And, but yeah, NetGalley is really where I get introduced to a lot of new authors without having to make that big financial commitment of, or even just trying to find something at the library. It's a little bit more difficult. So, but NetGalley is pretty user friendly.
It is, and you make sure that when from NetGalley, it gets on all of the other platforms, your reviews. So that
Yes,
that's an amazing thing. So how, if do you don't have a blog? You don't have a blog?
I don't.
Okay.
Um, so I got turned on to NetGalley. I think I've been on there for 5 years now, and so one author that I was kind of, hey, I really like your books. She's like, oh, I'm putting this on NetGalley through email. And so I was like, oh, what's NetGalley? And she's like, oh, let me invite you. She invited me, and I've been hooked ever since. So I've met, or I've gotten to read a lot of good authors that way.
Mm-hmm.
And I look for specific authors now that come through,
Mm-hmm.
so I'm very selective. I actually picked King of Arabia based on the cover, not even the content of the book or anything. I was like, oh, that looks pretty interesting.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I requested it, and well, history and magic was made.
Awesome, awesome. So you've got 3 books in this series. This is the Steel Horseman book. How long had you been writing
Yes.
this?
It's probably been 3 or 4 years
Right.
um, that it's been written. And then I've just sort of found the courage, is probably the right word, to put myself out there and to put the story out there, because I think it really does take a lot of courage for an author to like put something out there, because now you're opening yourself up to people like, you know, other readers and reviewers and comments and 1 stars, and but so you're just sort of putting yourself out there, or a piece of yourself out there.
Indeed. Mo said she loved the Kiss Quotient, so I guess I got to check that one out. Somebody said I'm gonna have to read this book. So, Lady of Jeffrey Manor is the one they're talking about. So yes. So 3 books in the series. You got the covers done, and you've been holding on to it. So what finally gave you that push to say,
um,
I'm just gonna do this damn thing?
we had a phone conversation that
Oh, you
I
mean
was
you and
nervous.
I?
Yeah, you and I
Okay.
had a phone conversation, and I was so nervous talking to you because I was like, oh my gosh, she's gonna hate me because I gave that book like a bad review, and like here's my opinion of it, and I really didn't know what I was getting into on that phone conversation. And it turned out that it was just like, it was somebody real on the other side of that phone
Mhm.
talking to me as a person who has experience. And then as I saw more of your developmental process through the books that I was reading and you were sending, and got to that interaction. I was like, well, wait, they're just as people as I am. I can do this. And so I think that just helped with the nudge, a little bit of encouragement, and there we go.
That is so awesome to hear. I'm glad you finally took that plunge, because you can hold on to it and be afraid of it. We're finding our way. We're finding our way. So this is an amazing thing to hear. That being part. So your being part of our process helped us, and us being part of now with that, it helped you.
Yes.
So that
Yeah.
you never know why people are brought into your lives, and you've actually reviewed almost all of the Knights of the Castle. I think it was Grand Crossing, where you've reviewed all of them. Actually, you've given us feedback. Yep. This doesn't work. This doesn't work. This, and that's what you need. So we've got from NetGalley, from this experience, I've pulled about good 3 or 4 people that have been solid with us that are outside of our circle. It's good to get input from a lot of people on helping to get the books done and together. So what words would you give to, now here's the thing, now you're an author. Now people are going to be reviewing your how are you going to, what has, with my experience with you, how is that going to prepare you for the reviews that you have?
Well, I look past the emotion, and even now when I write the reviews, I try to take that emotional side of it out, because when I read King of Arabia, I was like, this book has potential. It can be there. And I was mad because it didn't meet my expectation of it could really be a great book. And so I'm sure that you felt that in my words in the review. And I didn't mean to come across as being, mean. No,
you didn't know it. You had no reason to spare our feelings for anything. You didn't know us. That's why when we say do not get reviews just from family and friends, you didn't have no love for us. Well, not then.
No.
But, and even with your love for us now, the love is different, because we respect your opinion, and that you can tell us the absolute truth. And that's what we want, because we'd rather hear it from you than us to put it out there and we hear it from the readers. If we get it clean in-house, that means people can enjoy it. We get negative reviews after we've done all the editing and we've done everything else, and if somebody says, well, I just don't like the story, there's nothing I can do about somebody who just does not like the story. But if there's execution things that we can fix, then hearing that means an author should really pay attention to that. And that's a key. That's very much of a key point. I'm going to put your new book up here. Hold on for a second, because your first time author debut novel. Make sure I'm sharing it right. There we go. Kai and April. Yeah. And then you have one. I think you put I had a little come to Jesus meeting with you about the one that you had. Brother on the cover. I'm like, sweetie, you got to change this brother. You got to put a drop dead gorgeous brother on this cover. If you're gonna put a black man on the cover, he got to be panty dropping fine. You can't be average. You got to, make it stand out. I need to picture that I could give him. He could get it. So I'm just saying. And you were receptive to that, because you went back and you chose a couple of other ones, and but that exchange it's been a wonderful thing. It's been a wonderful, wonderful thing. So where can we find out more about you and your books? I know you don't have a blog for that, but what is your website?
Well, I'm on Instagram, and it's under author April Lynn. And you can find me on Facebook with the same one, author April Lynn. I tried to keep things as the same as possible. I figured if you're going to search for one, you probably will search for the other ones. And the website, I don't even know what that one is. I can't. I know, right? How bad is that?
Yeah,
But remember, it's 10:48 here in Ohio,
yeah,
so
that's
maybe
I'm
you'll.
wrapping it up. So yeah, yeah.
It's all good.
You have the babies, you have the babies to attend to. Okay, so we thank you so much for stopping through. And I thought it was very important to have you because of this exchange. That authors tend to think that negative reviews can just it's debilitating, it's whatever. No, I pick it apart. I picked apart everything you said, and I saw what I could address, and the other stuff is like, well, she went to school with however many people, and I went to school with how,
Right.
but um, it needed to be addressed because somebody else would have thought the same thing. So I appreciate it, and I thank you for coming
Yeah.
through and sharing your wisdom. And all of the tribe people are saying, thank you, April. Thank you, April.
Yeah.
Some of these people, this is Night of Pink Quarter authors that are on right now. That's the last book in the Knights of the Castle series. So you'll be getting their book. That's Michelle and Terry.
Okay.
You guys are different places on everybody's screen, but Terry is down at the bottom. Well, and here, Terry, wave your hand. And then Michelle. Yep. So you'll be getting their book probably in a couple of weeks. It's rolling through the last part. So I thank you so much for coming through. I'm going to put you in the backyard, and I'm going to say good night
Okay.
to everyone. Hold on for a second. All right. Okay.